The Social Democratic Front says it would participate in the country's first ever senatorial elections in the country. The SDF chairman John Frundi told journalists today in the capital city Yaoundé, where he is meeting the chief of cabinet of Mr. Biya. And also in this news, as we talk about the road accident which took away the life of 3 persons that occurred along the Douala Bafoussam highway, and the incident was blamed on poor overtaking. Plus, users of the Douala Yaoundé road say it is practically impossible crossing over the Ideya Bridge as a result of the ongoing rehabilitation works. We shall be having this and more in this newscast. Good evening to you viewers. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away with circulation, which is said to have been perturbed as users of the Douala Yaoundé highway say that they are forced to wait for hours severally on the bridge because of the rehabilitation works that are ongoing on the Ideya Bridge. And they say that the situation has also made transportation costs higher. And the road users are also proposing that this rehabilitation works could be carried out in the night so that circulation could be fluid in the day. Ranibel Satowara took interest in that story and now tells us more in the following report.
This is what users of this road in Ideya in the Sanaga Maritime Division have been facing for over a month now. They say they are forced to wait for over 2 hours on the same spot because of the rehabilitation works that are being carried out on the road. Those who cannot wait and crawl gently alongside other cars across the bridge are faced with no other choice than to walk on foot to the other side of the river. Locals in the area complained that transportation fare has witnessed a great hike because of the circulation difficulties around the area. While some road users regretted that only this road leads to their destination, others suggested that the construction company carrying out the rehabilitation work should do so in the night when most people are not using the road. Some hawkers are seeing the situation as an opportunity for them to make more profits on the road that has become more like a market.
Since we are talking about roads, 3 members of the same family reportedly died in a ghastly road accident that occurred around Manjo along the Douala Bafoussam highway. And a gendarme officer and his 2 children were on board a motorcycle which came head-on with a vehicle. And the incident is said to have been caused by poor overtaking. We shall surely be coming back to that in a subsequent newscast. Now we talk politics, where those are the images of the accident which took place along the Douala Bafoussam highway. We shall surely, of course, be coming back to that in a subsequent newscast. Now we talk politics, where the Social Democratic Front has come back or reversed its decision on its participation in the country's first ever senatorial elections in the country. John Frundi told journalists shortly after meeting the chief cabinet of the presidency of the Republic that was today in the capital city Yaoundé. The Social Democratic Front had earlier promised to sharpen its matches against the holding of the senatorial elections following the February 27th presidential announcement. And John Frundi is now still in the capital city Yaoundé as we speak. And in the wake of the announcement by the Social Democratic Front, our Yaoundé-based correspondent Roland Akon caught up with the SDF chair, who tells us in the following report why the Social Democratic Front reversed its decision.
I told the population and the SDF militants in particular that we're having discussions with Mr. Biya, and these discussions, he sent his emissary to talk to us. And looking at the senatorial elections, which is the upper house, we've discussed not only at the level with Mr. Biya, but also at the level of the party, and we've come to the conclusion that we should participate in these elections, notwithstanding what is happening.
And in the wake of that announcement by the SDF chair, our reporter once again caught up with the National Legal Advisor of the Social Democratic Front, Joseph Mbanda, who further tells us why the party decided to come back to its decision as far as participating in the country's senatorial elections is concerned. This is what he had to say.
The reason is that, one, if he, the president, were to die now, the mandate of parliamentarians has expired also. And the mandate of the president of the National Assembly has equally expired. And if such a vacancy were to occur, which we don't want to think about, but if it were to occur, we will be calling of an expired president of the National Assembly to preside over the destiny of a nation. This is very frightening. And we are lucky that the army that we have is such that it does not want to put us into trouble. Otherwise, we are existing today without a properly constituted parliament, without a properly constituted local council structures, and without a Senate which actually is supposed to paddle the affairs of the nation in the event of a vacancy. This is not good for a nation. That is why we've weighed all these irregularities and illegalities, and thought that in the supreme interest of the nation, we should participate in this masquerade.
The Social Democratic Front says that it is on the entire interest of Cameroonian population that the party decided to come back to its decision. That was the National Legal Advisor of the Social Democratic Front, Joseph Mbanda, speaking to Yaoundé-based correspondent Roland Akon. Now we remain in that part of Cameroon where Chief Ephraim Inoni was for the second time this week before judges of the Special Criminal Court, where his embezzlement case, alongside two co-accused, that is Otele Somba and Jean-Maria Tangana Mubarak, continued. The court session saw the questioning of the former finance director of National Hydrocarbon Corporation, and yesterday's first witness in the case, the former Minister of Transport, John Binder, said he signed the contract upon directives, or the contract with the aircraft portfolio management upon directives from his hierarchy, and the case has been adjourned for March 15, 2013. And now some royal women, we talk about the International Women's Day that would be celebrated in less than 24 hours, where some royal women in Bangwa in the Open Camp division say they are not going to be indifferent as far as preparative and activities ahead of the International Women's Day are concerned. During the past week, they have been intensifying the activities, like I earlier said, and Rani Bell Satowara tells us in the following report, the various activities that these women are engaged in. Her report.
The rural women of Bangwa are mainly involved in agriculture and other petty businesses. They have to get up very early day just to get ends meet for the well-being of their families. Besides farming, they carry out other activities like hairdressing, semi-provision stores, among others. Some women have come together in a common initiative group to cultivate and produce some agricultural finished products like gari and others made out of cassava. The activity intensifying with intention to showcase their skills on March 8th. They say the only problem they face is at the level of machines that are inadequate and dilapidating due to lack of means. The women nonetheless say they cannot remain indifferent to the International Day for the female folk.
C'est la fête des femmes, donc toutes les femmes doivent fêter. J'ai préparé la fête très bien chez moi. Ça me dépasse même la fête de Noël et les Nouvel An chez moi.
Not only are they ready for the feast, but are also ready with activities like exhibitions and march pasts in commemoration of the International Women's Day.
And here in the economic capital Douala as well, on the International Women's Day, preparations are upbeat or fever peak. And in the market, women are struggling to get their various fabrics or Women's Day fabric. Now we talk something else. We take you now to the capital city, Yaoundé, where the government of Cameroon is seeking ways to boost rice production in the country. A project called Plan Rice is being initiated to train and assist some 2,000 Cameroonians or Cameroonian rice farmers. An evaluation meeting on the project took place yesterday in the capital city, Yaoundé, and Roland Akon was part of that evaluation meeting. His report.
These rice farmers are planting the grain far away from swampy areas, what is uncommon in many parts of Cameroon, where rice is planted mainly or in swampy areas. The experimentation dubbed Upland Rice, which has been going on for less than a year now, has seen the training and support of over 2,000 rice farmers drawn from 3 regions in Cameroon. Observers say this will help boost rice production in Cameroon. Experts of the project have assured the grains of rice are good for consumption. The experimentation is carried in the center, south and east regions, possibly to be extended to other regions of Cameroon in due course. This meeting in Yaoundé Wednesday, chaired by the Secretary General at the Agric and Rural Development Ministry, seeks to evaluate the project, which experts rated as on good footing.
Now, the Minister for Arts and Culture, Martha Tumuna, was yesterday here in the economic capital, Douala, where she launched the Heritage and Arts Foundation to improve the work of arts in Cameroon as well as beyond the country. And the project seeks to overcome the current challenges faced by the cultural sector in Cameroon due to lack of fundings and donors and sponsors, as underscored by the Minister of Arts and Culture, Martha Tumuna, would come from a private sector in the country. And in the following excerpt, or in the following interview, the Minister for Arts and Culture tells us further the importance of that foundation. She spoke to a report of Cedric Nofeli.
The interest is not only to help give value to our culture, but also, give more value to the artists and all other aspects of culture to be able to promote. The scope of the foundation is not limited in the sense that some foundations have already in their policies decided what they're going to fund. So we've made it so broad that we would not miss any franc that is hiding anywhere.
Now we talk about the problems plaguing the Baka community in the east region of the country, which is still being plagued with limited schools and hospitals. An international organization to that effect recently projected the plight of the Baka population in a movie that they recently published or projected to inhabitants of the central region of the country. Roland Akon, who was part of that ceremony, tells us that it pulled a huge crowd.
This movie speaks of the realities, the experiences of the Baka people in the east region of Cameroon. Their children are dying, others are sick due to lack of access to health facilities. This man is rubbing mud on the paralyzed feet of his child as a remedy. Another problem facing the Baka people is that there are no schools in the area. Forest exploiters are also making shelter difficult for them. As the Bantu civilization gets closer to the Baka people, some of them have taken to alcoholism. Their music and other aspects of their culture is a heritage for Cameroon. Even their scientific knowledge of the forest possibly challenges that of big scientists. This movie aims to present their plight and draw attention for action.
The problems of the Baka people in the east region of the country, they're projected in the movie. Thanks, Cindy Roland Akon, for that report. Now, the election of a new pope in Rome is yet being awaited. to succeed Pope Benedict XVI, who resigned this February. And it is said that the cardinal from Vietnam is still being awaited for the exercise to begin. And 114 cardinals across the world are already in Rome, but 115 is the number expected to elect the new Pope. And it should be recorded after the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, cardinals have been converging on Rome for the election of a new Pope, who is expected to be known before Easter. And it is on that note that we come to the end of this segment of the news, but Talking Point is up next. Thanks indeed, viewers, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We are, of course, going to be talking about the International Women's Day, which is going to be celebrated in less than 24 hours. And tonight we have the delegate of the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, Madame Tamsa Louise Florence, or Law Florence. I hope I had your name correctly. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you.
So,
and thank you, televiewers. So,
of course, the theme for this year is the elimination of and prevention of all forms of violence against women and young girls. And it's quite intriguing. This is not the first time this theme is introduced or instituted as a theme for the Women's Day celebration. Why does it keep coming up?
Yeah, in fact, this theme, we have been tackling it under different angles. But we notice that on the field, the violence is still a hard stone to break. That is why the theme this year is coming again under violence.
What do you mean by it's glaring? Could you be more specific on some of the cases of violence that women face on a daily basis in Cameroon that we can see for ourselves?
Yeah, we have different types of violence that women face, women and young girls, of course. We have the physical violence, that is, they get beaten on a daily basis. We have the psychological violence, they get insulted and tormented in all sorts of ways on a daily basis. We have the economical violence, whereby the husband decides one day to sell the house or to seize the salary of the wife, or to stop her to go to her job site, or to even stop her not to have a job. We have also the other forms of violence, like the spiritual violence, because you belong to one religion, you want everybody to belong to that religion. So it's on a daily basis that we see women coming to our offices for one reason or the other, just because they have chosen a partner that does not, that has its own way of defining love.
Of course, and you seem to have named a couple of them. An indication that is a huge file for the delegation to handle, and taking interest or highlighting it more only during this Women's Day celebration. Is it not curious?
No, it's not that we are highlighting it only on the Women's Day celebration. In fact, when we start, we have a theme. We go on along the year with that theme. And even when the next year comes with a different theme, we still have an eye on that the last year's themes to see whether there is a change in the society. Unfortunately, it's, as I just said, it is a hard stone to break in our community.
What makes it difficult to handle these situations in the community today?
Yeah, we have people that commit violences. They justify themselves through poverty. They justify themselves through traditions. They justify themselves through religion, backgrounds. So it's very difficult as far as a human being is concerned. It's not 1 + 1 = 2.
But is it correct that a human being would harm the other on basis of poverty or problems or whatever? Is it correct?
It can never be correct. That's why we are crying out again on this theme. We are saying it's too much. We took some promises some past years ago. We have to maintain those promises. That is, we say we want to lower the violence rate. We have to do everything to lower the violence rate. It's not correct. It can never be correct anyway. But when you have somebody who has grown up in a certain tradition, culture, or religion, he has already his mindset shaped in one shape. So it's difficult to change his mindset in one day. It's a long time process involving everybody in the society.
And the indication that you are talking somehow about ignorance on the part of maybe some of those perpetrators of the act.
Yeah, there is a lot of ignorance, in fact. Is that an
excuse?
But there is also a mindset, because when I say a mindset, see, you know, there is another aspect of violence. You cannot give love when you don't have love, when you have never seen love in your life. So how could you imagine a child, a man that has been brought up in a home whereby the father has been beating up the mother? He thinks that's the model, and he will just perpetrate that model.
How does the delegation of women's empowerment in the family, who is charged in handling such problems, how do you handle them? How do you take care of such problems?
We have many axes of handling such problems. The first line that we take is educative talks. We teach the women how to change their way of bringing up their boys. Because when we look at it at home, the girl child is a slave. Meanwhile, the boy is a free and a big prince. He's brought up in a way that he cannot wash a dish, he cannot wash his clothes. It's the girl that is doing everything. That is one form of the violence that is perpetrated on young girls. Then we have those teachings. Then we have also, in this teaching field, we also teach them how to prevent it, how to introduce dialogue in their homes, how to introduce, to let the other know what they want and what they don't want. And we have also the repression. That is, we convocate their partners and we talk to them. And if we don't succeed to let the partner know that he's on the wrong track, then we proceed in the other ministries. That is the Ministry of Justice, with all the procedure and all the lawyers that they have. That is how we fight it. Then we also have another way of fighting it. We teach the women we train the women how to look for money themselves, so that whereby there is that type of problem, let it not be like her basic needs are touched. That is physiological need, that she cannot buy food for her and her children, or she cannot buy clothes, or she cannot pay school fees. Because all those things, you know, when there's disharmony in a home, everything just goes upside down.
Now, this is a time too that women come to reflect on their living conditions, as you are saying. Maybe the way they are looked upon in the society where they find themselves. We look at the situation of Cameroon. How do you look at women's participation in activities around the country? Maybe in political activities, in social activities, in other economic activities in the country. How do you evaluate their participation and their involvement as well?
Yeah, we have been on the field to push them to integrate political parties, because you cannot change something if you don't have the tool to change it. That is, if your decision cannot go through. So you have to integrate the field of decision. And in our country, the only way to integrate the field of decision is through elections. So we go on the field, we tell them, look, you are 52% of the population. You take the chance now to go and vote for the people who will give you a promise that at least this violence will go low. That is one of the things that we do. But what I want to say here is that it's not only the men that aggress the women. The women themselves are a tool against themselves, because we see her like, and we don't want this 8th March to be like some of the pictures that we used to see on our TV, whereby the 8th March, they see women going drunk, they get out of their homes, they don't cook for their children because it's 8th March. And we look at her, though it's not a reason, some women get raped maybe because they dress very badly. But it's not a reason. I say it loudly here. It's not a reason for a rapist to go and grab a woman and rape her. But we say we need to get back to our good and best habit of dressing, because that's another form of violence. So we do many things this time to let the woman regain her position and let her be in a position of producing something positive in the society.
This issue of women having the same attitudes on a yearly basis, they keep coming up every year, meaning that probably maybe something is not done effectively, something is wrong somewhere, maybe in the process of sensitizing these women. Don't you think so?
Well, I may not say it's just the process of sensitizing. I may say that women, we are people that we are not interested by things that will change effectively our condition, and that is where the stone is hard. But we are grateful that as years are passing, when we look at our educative talks, we see the number of women increasing, what we call them for educative talks.
And
so
nothing still seems to be changing.
Yeah, but now we are not going to stay with the women. We need the men also to be educated. That is our problem now, because it's the man who has the muscles to beat the woman. So we need also the men to be educated. We need also the men to be followed up, because this man that is aggressing his wife every time, maybe he has had a problem in his childhood that made him to set his mind that the only way of dialogue is to beat.
Because there's this issue of women having it in mind that they must have the women's day fabric, and most of them who are involved in this act are most of those who are struggling hard, making it possible, making it as a duty, like an obligation, to have the women's day fabric. Don't you think it's also another problem?
No, I think it's the women out there that make it a problem. Nobody, and I can say it without being afraid, nobody has said to any woman that it is a must to have the fabric, even to go and march. Because when you have even your old year clothes, you match. So it's not, what I want to say is that the 8th March is not a day for the fabric. Please, don't aggress your husbands at home because they have not bought you the fabric. 8th March is far away. Beyond that,
it has to do with reflection.
It has to do with reflection. It has to do with evaluation. How far have we gone? Where have we not succeeded? Where have we gained? And what are the new directions that we are taking? That's 8th March. The fabric is just, I don't know. I cannot even put a percentage on it.
It's just the list of what is required. Thanks indeed, Madam Tamsa Louise Florence, for joining us. You are actually the delegate of the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family in the Douala II municipality here in the economic capital, Douala. We thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, and hi, you women. See you tomorrow.
Thanks indeed, viewers, for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on ATV. We have come to the end, and we wish that you have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs. But before we go, the Social Democratic Front has reversed its decision as far as the upcoming senatorial elections in the country is concerned. The party says that it would participate in the senatorial elections, and that does it for this edition of the Primetime Newscast on ATV. Have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs too.